What is going on, guys? Welcome to week number 14 of our Big 12 Team Builder Dynasty. Going to be doing recruiting. First off, we have Amarillo, McAllen, and
Little Rock.
Yes.
So we're looking forward to that. Amarillo has a big game against Midland State. They beat Midland 2 years ago, kind of surprised them a little bit. Maybe they can do the same. They got some visitors coming this week. Justin Davis is the big name, as well as Orion Bradshaw. Those are the two big guys. And Jamar Diggs. Very good safety. So we're going to check this out here. See what's going on with them. They've had Brandon Lee for a little while. We've seen that in the last time that we checked in on Amarillo. This guy they added to their board recently, and they're making a big push for Aaron Culver.
Yes.
Positions he play.
They're looking for guys that can immediately step in, make an impact, and Aaron Culver, the JUCO, D'Anthony Okobo, the JUCO. Both these guys, 78 overall players. By the time that they get there, they're going to have that off-season training. They'll probably be in the mid-80s. They'll be contributors on, well, defense for Okobo, maybe offense, maybe defense for Culver. We just don't know. Jason Gibbs, the free safety, in second place behind Ardmore.
Yeah, and Kansas State Navy bringing up the rear. It's pretty close. Little Rock way in the lead for Justin Davis. The other schools have burned their visit. Amarillo's got one left, and they have 900 points that they're projected to get here. So
this guy seems like he's a smart kid. Like he realizes, hey, Gunner's not going to be there forever. I could step in by year 2.
Right. And take a red shirt. Maybe I start the following year. Gunner goes to the NFL. Odessa State's having some transition issues with Dowdell, and is he the right fit? We don't really know yet. And then Amarillo
kind of a mess.
Has Galveston in the wings. He's redshirt freshman, I believe. Kind of in the high 70s, so Davis could come in and compete right away with him. Jamar Diggs, another big-time safety. Ardmore is desperate to get these two safeties.
Yeah, we need them. We need those two guys, for sure. We have two safeties that are going to be exiting to the NFL draft, namely Adrian McCool. So, yeah, Jamar Diggs would be huge for Amarillo. Huge, even more huge for us.
Orion Bradshaw is looking at Shreveport, Camu, and Amarillo. He's out of Lubbock, and we've talked about him. He's a big-bodied receiver. I think this visit is really going to help Amarillo, as well as Paul Alvarez. He's visiting, and I think Amarillo will do pretty well with him.
Yeah, they want to focus on the defensive line. It's just, you got to build from the inside out.
Yeah.
They're taking that approach. And Ed Moss, they're making some headway here for the 6'7", 209 speed wide receiver.
Yeah, the speedster.
Holy crap.
They've already had their visit, and Kansas has theirs coming up. I don't think he's going to sign with Kansas yet. I think they're going to take this into the offseason, and I think that battle's going to continue. Eric Baker has signed with Amarillo. They got Ferguson. Chichi Montoya update. They're up by 1,300 on SMU. And SMU has a visit coming up here. Still got a lot of these options here if they get desperate to sign people. And we'll see where that ends up. But Amarillo, the class is doing okay right now.
It's decent. For them.
Alright, we have McAllen here. We've known about Colton Daniels and Derek Williams for a little while. They have not signed any of their major recruits yet, other than Robert Powell out of Florida. This is a guy 6'4", 223, and it was between a fast-paced offense in McAllen and UConn. And you're from Florida.
I think he made the right choice.
I do as well. Larry Covington is an interesting guy, 77. As an athlete, McAllen's going to have a lot of holes to fill next year with their graduating seniors, so you see them going after some JUCO players. Dan Frazier right now, Midland State is in the lead for his services. RJ Jackson is a big guy they want. He's looking at Texas A&M. Both visits have been spent. Chris Brandt, they've been on a tug-of-war with Denver Tech forever for this guy, as well as Justin Brown out of Elko, Nevada. And let's look at some other guys. We've known about Jean-Luc forever, and all the way down on the board, still got some other guys to get. So it's starting to round into shape, but they really got to seal the deal on some of these guys. Jeff Cooper is a big one. Talk about Jeff Cooper again.
He's a very, very good pass rusher. It says run stopper, but being 6'5", 283, being a 5-star guy, he's going to be able to do a lot of things. He's going to be able to do both. And Ardmore really wants to get this guy because, yet again, we're losing a big player on our defense, which would be Jasper Hodges. We have that defensive end that we gotta think about replacing. So Jeff Cooper, number 2 defensive end, gotta go after him. And we gotta stave off McAllen's push for this player. Last but not least, let's talk about Little Rock's recruiting board. And you guys will notice one thing, there are 3 quarterbacks up on the board. Justin Davis being the number 1 guy here. So here's the deal. If they get Justin Davis, they're going to be A-okay. They don't need to focus on any more quarterbacks. They did also get a quarterback named Matt Smiley near the bottom here. But taking a look at Chris Dennis, they don't need Dennis if they get Justin Davis.
Well, they'll take him, won't they? You take anything you can get. Maybe Davis is a bust. Maybe Dennis springs up and becomes the answer.
Perhaps. We'll have to see what happens.
The big news here is that Hicks and Butler, 2 other top guys that they've been going after all offseason, have signed with Florida State. That's bad news for Little Rock. And we look down here, a couple of guys, Taiwan Davis, they have fallen behind on. So the class, I think we've used all of our door busters here. Not good. Marlon Butler out of Nebraska, they're trying to get, and Reggie Riley looks like a good fit for this offense. 5'9".
Yeah, it's basically AJ Puck, except it's at running back.
True that. This guy signed with Georgia State. Like, what are you doing? Get off my board.
You don't belong. Eric Grigsby right there, the defensive tackle, seemed like he was going to be kind of that. I don't know, he's not that big, so it wasn't too much of a loss. 6'1" defensive tackle, so it is what it is. But we see the other depth type of players down below here. Little Rock in the lead for a lot of them. And that's the deal. If you can't get the guys that you want, then you focus on your depth.
Yeah, we say it all the time. This guy I've been following, Albert Willis. He's been going back and forth between Kansas A&M and Little Rock forever.
6'5", 246. It's a big dude.
I don't know how I feel about this class right now. I mean, they're going to have to seal the deal on McKinney and Baker and Davis, I think, to really wrap this up. Put a nice little bow on it.
And the moment you guys have all been waiting for, taking a look at the top 25. And then after this, we'll go into the conference standings. Yeah. Florida State, number 1. Ohio State, number 2. And what the heck happened in North Carolina?
Good question, because they lost to Syracuse and were punished for 14 spots.
That is brutal.
I mean, you want to talk about, like you alluded to, their strength of schedule. 1 loss put them behind all of these Big 12 teams.
That hurts.
3 lost Big 12 teams.
They didn't get it done.
They just went all the way to the back of the pack. And Syracuse had a losing record, so that's probably why they were punished so severely. I think that might be harsh.
It's a little harsh.
Yeah, I agree. But Florida State, Ohio State, and Stanford are the top 3 right now. So you got ACU sitting here at 4. They could be in a spot. If they beat you this week on the road, they need 2 of these teams to trip up, that will open the door, I think, for ACU to get into the national title game. So we still have hope, everybody. Even if you don't like ACU, the Big 12 Conference still has hope to get a team builder team into the national title for the 3rd consecutive year. Denver Tech, though, might have something to say about that because they are sitting in 10th, and they still control their own destiny, but they play us, and we want to knock them off for the first time. You see Ardmore at 12, Broken Arrow 13.
That's still harsh, man. They beat us.
Yeah, I know. Camu at 14, and then Midland at 15. So they only went up 4 spots for beating Denver Tech. And, yeah, it's a logjam right now because Nebraska State sitting at 22 at 7-4 overall. So I'm happy with where we're at as a program. Shreveport hanging on to the 25th spot. I mean, they've been on the struggle bus lately. They have lost 4 of 5 games. And they've been blown out twice. Only win coming against Amarillo. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're still in the top 25. See receiving votes. McAllen, a little bit behind there, but they are getting some votes. They fell out with their loss to Ardmore last week.
Heisman watch time, guys. Check it out. Brian Street is the number 1 on the list, and he is trending up. This pretty much means that he's gonna win this thing, right?
Well, I think he needs to at least beat Little Rock. I think if he loses, that would open the door for AJ Turner. If he closes out with a big game, or if Makovich... if Mac... Oh, yeah, Makovich here, he might become the front runner, but a couple things need to happen. He needs to light us up, then he needs to move on to the title game, and then light ACU up, which is both of I think of those things are doable.
I don't even think it has to come down to that, like as far as that much performance. If he just leads his team to a division title and then a Big 12 championship appearance and a Big 12 championship, it doesn't even have to be performance-based. I think that it's just the fact that they got there.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 12 rushing touchdowns.
Give him a boost.
Yeah, 12 rushing touchdowns and 17 passing with lower yardage totals compared to Street.
Oh, that's true.
Who's got 32, 33, and 7, and then he has 7, 75, and 8.
Yeah.
So Makovich actually has more rushing touchdowns. But, I mean, if Uba loses, they're going to fall back in the top 25, and it's kind of a rule of thumb, like, you got to be a top 15 team to have a Heisman winner. I think Lamar Jackson sort of bucked that trend. I think they were like 20th. I think they went 8-4, and he still won it. But you kind of got to be in the national conversation. So, Broken Arrow, just beat Little Rock. I think
you can do it.
I think it's yours.
You can do it
if you do that.
Conference standings time, guys. Let's take a look and see. We already know that Broken Arrow
or ACU will represent the East.
Yes.
It's just a matter of Ardmore's got to beat ACU. Broken Arrow has to beat Little Rock. Little Rock, though, is going to be desperate because they do not want to miss out on a bowl game for the second time in 3 years, especially after making as many strides as they made last season. I think they went 8-4, if my memory serves.
Yeah, they did a good year.
They really did. And, Gunnar Rivers came in, really boosted the program's profile. Missing out on the bowl game would be a big disaster for them. So they want to knock off Uba, flush Brian Street down the toilet, get him out of the Heisman race. ACU, like we talked about, in the mix for the national title still. Although you have a rivalry with ACU.
Yes.
You want to beat these guys. You've split so far in this dynasty 1-1. Interesting scenario there. And then Denver Tech made their worst fear a reality by losing last week to Midland. Midland showed up, played, great game, clutch game late, which has not really been their strength, which opens the door now for Nebraska State to play spoiler for Denver Tech. Although, that would only set up a four-way tie, assuming all these teams won. I think Midland could lose, Camu could lose, so we don't know what's going to happen.
Camu gets Odessa, Midland State gets Amarillo, and those are both games that those teams are probably going to win. I mean, let's be honest here. So projecting that those guys win those games, they're now 5-3 in conference, 9-3 overall. Nebraska State with a win would be 8-4 overall, 5-3 in conference.
Yeah, and the conference record is the only thing that matters,
right,
when it comes down to this.
And Tech would get pushed down to 5-3. So yeah, so you get a four-way tie.
So Denver Tech could still, even with the loss, they could still represent the Big 12 West. So we don't really know what the Big 12 has as their tie-breaking criteria. So we got a lot of, and even like you said, Amarillo, Odessa are basically gimmies. I know they're 1-6, but these teams, their overall rating puts them in a spot where they could upset Camu and Midland. Odessa State beat Camu last year pretty decidedly. They're different teams, obviously, but I have no idea what's going to happen. I think Denver Tech will win and just eliminate this conversation, but it's a fun thing to think about. All right, let's take a look at some bowl projections. What do you think is going to happen here with some of our teams? We're looking at, what do you think of this game?
I'd go to that game.
McAllen and Western Michigan.
Played at Ford Field. I'd definitely go to that game. But yeah, McAllen would win that game. I would think they would win that game.
They have Camu in the Holiday Bowl against Washington.
Washington coming off, I mean, they're 6-5. They're coming off a really good season last year.
Yeah, they struggle at quarterback, and we saw it in our opener, ACU versus Washington. And they haven't really recovered from that early season loss, 6-5. So that is what it is. We're playing Notre Dame.
Man, you guys
right
get
now.
these high-profile schools.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't get it. Yeah, 7-4 Notre Dame. I think we can handle Notre Dame. It'll be a fun game. They pushed Kansas A&M, so I don't know. Shreveport would play Texas in the Fight Hunger Bowl in San Francisco.
Former national champion Texas from last season. So Shreveport, it doesn't get any easier.
No, Midland State would play UCLA in the Alamo Bowl. That would be pretty fun.
What?
You would have Rutgers
What?
in the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl.
What the frick is that?
Well, they're probably projecting you to lose to ACU. And that's the thing, our conference is so tightly packed that one loss is going to send you... The difference between a win and a loss is you either possibly getting a BCS bid or falling down to play a mid-level Big Ten team like Rutgers.
We can't play Rutgers, guys. That's not good for the program. I mean, Buffalo Wild Wings would be good for the program.
Now they currently have Little Rock playing Georgia in the Heart of Dallas Bowl.
That's a pretty sweet matchup. I like that.
Yeah, but they have to win. Although I'm looking at, I mean, they want Georgia, and I saw Ball State at 5-5, so maybe, you could have one of those years where a losing team gets invited to get to a bowl game, which would be crazy. I don't know how they determine that. Maybe Little Rock would be on the receiving end of one of those. Who even knows?
Oh, Michigan, South Carolina, so they can have another Jadeveon Clowney hit in the Capital One Bowl?
Yeah, awesome. Kansas State would represent the American at this point, playing Denver Tech in the Fiesta, and then they have Ole Miss taking on ACU, which would be a fun game. Shea Patterson still at Ole Miss in this Dynasty. Arkansas would play Uba in the Cotton Bowl at this rate. That would be a fun game. And then you have Old Dominion, Georgia State in the national championship. Oh, wait, no, that's not the national championship. Ohio State, Florida State, BCS title game.
Go Florida State.
Yeah, so what'd you think about the BCS here? Denver Tech and ACU and on track to go.
Kansas State kind of has these seasons where, they kind of do this mid-level thing, and then all of a sudden they just blow up and they have one really good year. I would take Denver Tech in that if that's the matchup, but yeah, ACU, they could still have national title hopes and dreams if one of those two other teams fall. Hey, they've also got a Big 12 championship game to play if they get there, of course. Ole Miss, good opponent for the Sugar Bowl. I like it. Miami, Wisconsin. Why do these teams always seem to match up against each other?
I don't know.
Didn't they play in a bowl game recently?
Yeah. Here's a feature that we only show once a year towards the end of the season. Joe Barry out of Amarillo, his security is at a 64. I thought it would be a little bit more in jeopardy than that.
He's probably getting released.
I don't know. I think next year is going to be the put up or shut up season for Amarillo. I don't even think 6-6 will cut it.
He hasn't really even done that great of a job recruiting. Let's be honest here. He's gotten guys. It hasn't had much of an impact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've done a decent job at recruiting, but
Amarillo,
not a good job. They've done decent, not good. Yeah, not great.
Northwest Texas is definitely not the recruiting hotbed that the Dallas-Fort Worth area is, or East Texas, or anything like that. So, or Houston area. So it's a little tougher out there. Tough sledding out there. But Amarillo they're a proud program. They have expectations. I don't know if Joe Barry's going to make it.
I don't either. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And Brock Musselman is one of those guys that has underachieved. You see the 3-0 against rivals. It's against Houston, and Houston has been down in this dynasty. So
this program, McAllen program, is too loyal. If I'm having to sit up in that press box as the AD, and I'm watching my McAllen Matador football program being run by a guy that makes as many mistakes as he does with game management, these are games that you could win. These are games that McAllen should be. They should be a better program than what they've been putting out. That's a tough pill to swallow.
When this conference started, they were really one of the flagship schools of this conference. I'd say there's probably 5. You got ACU. You have Ardmore, Denver Tech, Midland, and McAllen are kind of like the big five. They're like the schools that generate the most money. They're the schools that have the biggest national profile. If you've seen our basketball series, CAMU is like the basketball specialist kind of school.
Yep.
And they have that plucky kind of football team, but they're not a big national draw. So McAllen has underachieved with 23-14 record, and they've lost games that they shouldn't have, like you said. So Musselman on the hot seat. Stan Leach with 4 years. So I believe he had an extension after turning them around and getting them to a bowl game. So Odessa hitched their wagon to Leach. Even though they have crashed on earth this season, they can't fire him right now.
No, way too many recruiting classes that have come in, back-to-back seasons of really good classes coming in, especially this season probably being their best. And the first class that we saw come in was defensive loaded for them. They really hit defense hard. He's obviously got a plan. It seems to be working. I don't know why you would fire a guy like that. It needs to take time.
I don't either. And he even brought in Braxton Austin as a wide receiver coach, reportedly out of the high school ranks, and he's known for his recruiting. So Odessa is trying to ramp it up because they want to match up with Midland State. All these guys are at 100, recently have extensions. Coach Stephen Cust has a 6-year extension, so he's not going anywhere. Stephen Cust is one of those guys that some bigger schools are trying to poach right now. Let's take a look at some coordinators. These guys are definitely more expendable. Amarillo's offensive coordinator's in trouble.
That seems a little odd because they score so many points.
Yeah,
but the numbers don't lie. But the points don't lie, though.
Right. Shreveport has the lowest ranked offense in the Big 12, and some of these other guys are pretty safe. Kirk Ferentz is the most safe. Defensive coordinator, now we're talking right now. Looks like Clarence Clark might be having to pack up his bags. Easily, Bush, Bernard, all these guys probably going to get the axe because, you think of these coaching staffs, they got to make a change. They got to keep the boosters happy.
Mm-hmm.
They got to stave off the critics. They got to make it look like they're doing something positive.
Yeah, and the big thing here is that it's kind of a harsh thing for this guy, Clarence Clark, because Amarillo has, in the first year at least, they had a really good defense.
A lot of seniors, too.
I don't know how you can fire a guy like that. He's got a young core here to deal with and work with, and
it's a dog-eat-dog world.
I understand. It's just really harsh. And then you got Little Rock's defensive coordinator, Martin Bernard. That's another deal. They're secondary. Not so much with corners, but safeties, specifically safeties.
Yeah, 30 points allowed per game.
That's a lot. Time for picks and analysis, boys. Midland State at Amarillo.
It's a Thanksgiving game.
Yes, so will Midland State feast on this terrible defense by Amarillo?
I think the answer is going to be yes.
Most definitely yes.
Midland started the year very balanced. They're going to be without Claudio Keller in this game. So Keller will sit, and just Whiteside has been throwing the ball. So, they, like I said, started balanced. They've really leaned towards the pass over the last 5 weeks. And I think Midland's going to torch Amarillo's secondary.
I would agree with that. I think D.D. Dukes can put up some pretty solid stats, though, against Midland State's defense. The only thing, he's going to get a lot of opportunities. Let's just be frank about that. He's going to get a ton of opportunities. Midland State's probably going to be moving the ball with ease, scoring consistently, constantly giving them the football. This one could, if Amarillo comes out guns blazing, they could hang. But I think it's too much.
Dukes can score. They're putting up 403 a game. Amarillo's going to lose though.
Yep. Shreveport against McAllen, 7-4 against 7-4, 3-4 and 3-4. It's tough because the numbers would tell you McAllen for sure.
Yeah. Look, Shreveport has lost 4 or 5, like we mentioned. McAllen has lost 3 consecutive games, and the games have been getting worse each time. You see, the Midland they lost on a Hail Mary. ACU they were competitive, but their defense was just no match. And then Ardmore looked like their offense wasn't even trying.
Well, that's the thing. Has this team given up? I mean, we mentioned this at the beginning of the year that a lot of the McAllen leadership, the guys that were coming back that could have left for the NFL, wanted to come back and really do some special things.
Like, I left millions of dollars on the table for this?
For this? You got to ask yourself the question, are they giving up? And as we get into bowl season, we might need to ask ourselves that question again. So even if McAllen wins this game against Shreveport, if they somehow stumble into a win, are they going to get up and play for a bowl game? I know that a lot of guys have pro stock to improve, but I kind of like Shreveport in this game. I know they're going on the road, but I kind of like the upset here.
Yeah, I'll pick Shreveport as well, just because I think they can control the ground game. I know the rushing total is not where they want it, but I think the more they condense the game, the better. Keep the clock moving, and then you see Harkless is running around. A lot of clock comes off for McAllen too. They tend to play at a faster pace, but when they play another team that goes at a high pace like ACU or Midland, that's when you see all these points. You play a team with a really slow pace like Shreveport or Nebraska State or Ardmore,
slow it down.
Offense goes down the toilet. I keep using that phrase today. Give me Shreveport by a field goal.
Odessa State and Camu, I don't think that this is going to be too much of a game here. I think Camu's going to kind of blow Odessa out. I know that they're very well balanced on offense. They can run it, they can throw it. Jace Freeman is maybe one of the most well-rounded quarterbacks in the game.
Yeah, and they got 16 visiting prospects here for Senior Day. Odessa is going to go with Dowdell. They went with Booker. They threw him a bone just to keep, the positive, the family atmosphere
The vibes
at Odessa State. So they're going to go back to Dowdell for this game. Is he going to be able to handle Kansas A&M's defensive front? I say no way.
I'm taking Camu.
Yep.
One of the big games for next week, Ardmore against ACU. So we know that this game has some BCS implications to it. We just saw the bowl projections. So,
it's possible because, if Ardmore can beat ACU, like, how high can Ardmore go?
Right. We would be in the top 10 at that point.
It's just how high. And they can only take 2 Big 12 teams, so you have to be one of the 2 highest ranked.
We're not doing too good of a job with the turnover differential, so that's kind of concerning. ACU does have, we always talk about it seems, that potent, legit secondary. Defensive line is pretty solid too.
Yeah,
Price Greer, Todd Parker.
Stanfield facing guys like Price Greer and Todd Parker, and the secondary with Granger and Washington and Chandler and Stevens. I think that it's going to be too much. I don't think Ardmore can score enough to keep up with AC.
It definitely is going to be a really, really tough task for Ardmore to win. They definitely don't have the advantage in this game. Maybe being at home gives them a little bit of a boost, but we have a lot of good offensive linemen. If we can stick to the run game, it'll help. But if Stanfield is asked to win this game as a freshman going up against this ACU squad, it's not going to happen. So, odds are ACU, but you know me, I'm picking myself.
I'll pick ACU just because I think it's going to be too much for your offense. I don't think your offense is productive enough. Little Rock at Broken Arrow. Little Rock playing for their bowl lives. I picked them to beat Kansas A&M last week, and I was wrong. So am I going to pick them again? To beat Uba, to hurt Street Tiesman chances, to kick them out of the Big 12 title race. I will do it.
Wow.
I'm going to go Little Rock because I'm thinking that Gunnar Rivers is going to play a great game. They're number 7 now against the pass, and Uba struggling on that front in their secondary.
Do you think Gunnar Rivers is better than Bryant Street? I'm gonna put that on you right now. Do you think he's better than Bryant Street?
Actually, as a pure passer, I do. And I'll say that because look at the numbers that Street has put up against the top defenses. It's not any different than Gunnar Rivers. I think Uba just has a better supporting cast, and I think they played a bunch of scrubs at the beginning of the year, And Street went ballistic against those teams.
So I would agree with you that he's a better passer. But being a better quarterback in entirety, it's Brian Street.
Includes scrambling.
Includes scrambling, includes leadership ability. It's Brian Street all day. That's why I'm taking Uba in this game. And I'm taking Uba because of the offense. Little Rock has not shown all season long that they can sustain and be consistent in their offensive attack. They have not been able to do it. They have some games where they blow up. They have some games where they struggle. Defense has been non-existent for Little Rock. Defense has been solid for Broken Arrow. We have Faintus 9 to worry about. We got Amiri Hayes Branson to worry about, a linebacker. We got Stull. You know, the names for Uba, they keep on going and going and going. And it's at home. And I don't think if Brian Street in preseason was able to call himself to the media and say, I'm winning the Heisman. If he's that type of quarterback, he's got some bravado, you know, why are they going to stop now? How are they going to lose this game? Can you guys do it? Can you guys pull off the upset perhaps of the year?
Well, you see, we have 18 prospects, so Nebraska State is gearing up for this one. It's going to be senior day. I want to get Bubba Robinson. I feel like he's the answer.
You guys have 7 quarterbacks on the roster.
Up. I think that Nebraska State, it's that thing where the atmosphere on campus, like everybody is amped up.
They're all in.
But, I mean, look what we're going up against. We got the number 8 offense and number 12 defense coming into town to Grand Island, Nebraska.
I think this is weird, man. 118th in pass defense. You're one of the worst in the nation, but somehow the total defense is number 14, and that is what I always say is Nebraska State has a good defense, but you wouldn't know it with the ranks, but somehow they always seem to come through.
Yeah, it's the rushing defense because the CPU doesn't know how to run the ball. Frankly,
yeah,
that's why I played Air Force at the beginning of the year. I was hoping they would pump my numbers up a little bit to keep it within realism, but it just doesn't work that way. I can't explain it.
Honestly,
they don't run the ball.
I have no idea who I'm taking in this because you got Denver Tech, who has lost a couple games now. They don't seem to have that feel.
They don't have that edge.
They don't have that feel like they're the same Denver Tech team, which when we're playing these games, that matters. That matters. So Nebraska State at home, they got something to play for. If you guys win, you got that 4-way tie? Possibly.
I don't even know, and we've talked about, I have no idea how they would decide that.
Right, so you got a lot on the line here.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'm picking.
I'm going to pick myself. I think I did it last year, if I recall. I think this year we're actually going to do it. I don't know, like, Shinovsky's got to play better than he did against Amarillo. We need that game against Midland where he played well against Midland State. That's the kind of game we need.
Well, when I look at this, you guys are really, kind of evened out. The pass offense, number 12 for you, 16th for Denver Tech. Total defense, 14th for you, 12th for Denver Tech. And the rush defenses are pretty similar, top 10s. The only thing that causes me concern is the turnover differential. But I don't even look at your pass defensive numbers, like 244 against. I don't even look at it because it's like it seems like you guys have good defense as it is. I don't know. Turnover differential probably going to be a factor in the game.
Who are you picking?
Denver Tech.
Okay. Thank you.
Just kidding.
Oh, really?
I believe in Nebraska State.
You think we're going to do it?
I think you guys are going to get it done.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how it's going to happen. Maybe Denver goes even with the loss. I have no clue.
So that's going to be it for our Week 14 preview, guys. Leave a like if you like this thing, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that red button for subscribe or my logo in the bottom right-hand corner. And make sure you guys go make your picks on GoGloverGaming.com. This is the final week. The final week. A lot at stake for you guys. Team Builder prize, obviously, at the end for first, second, and third. And I think, are we including the Big 12 championship game prediction as well?
Yes.
We are.
So we're not going to know until that's over with.
Yes, so it's not the final week in total of the game. It's the final week of the regular season. So there's a lot on the line for all the Big 12 teams and you guys as well in the standings. So, and check out Heel Boy's picks. That is also uploaded on the website. Go check out what he thinks is going to happen in his predictions. He's actually in the top 5 So he's a very good source of information to look from. So that's all I got. Do you have anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Big week next week. We'll see you guys on Saturday. As always, peace.